Hello, everyone, and welcome. Wherever you are listening from in the world, I hope that you are safe and you are healthy and you are of good spirits. I'm coming to you today directly outside of the interview format to share some hope, some good news, and some tips for tough times. As we record this, the world is wrestling with the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the future for many of us feels a little bit uncertain. I want to help you to understand a little bit better of what to do with that uncertainty, but also to feel encouraged and have real tools that you can take forth that'll be of benefit. In the midst of challenging times, I want to help. That is what I am all about. That's what I've been all about. That's what my company is all about, is the opportunity to connect with millions of creatives and entrepreneurs, people in overlooked and underserved communities, and find ways to help and therefore to inspire generational change. And I believe that in greatest challenges are where we get the greatest opportunity to create and deliver that inspiration. As you listen, I would ask you to kindly share the episode. If you're thinking, man, this is beneficial for me, share it with others, engage others who need to hear, and leave reviews. Let us know how things are going and what you think and what you'd like to see, even comment on our posts. I want to start today with a picture of some good news, some things that are going well, some mindsets that are important for us to have, and then to share with you 12 tips for tough times. The first good news is this: people matter most, and people are doing incredible things. As I look around the world and we hear tough news day after day, more and more restrictions, we hear of people getting sick and in the hospital and shortages of different things, the ventilators and the masks. We also hear how many people are doing incredible things, how many people are stepping outside of their own comfort zone or outside of their own business, or in many cases outside of their own self-interest in doing incredible things. And I hope sincerely that that gives you inspiration in the world. Here's the second piece of good news: dreams are still real. When you are looking forward and you are thinking about what you can be and what you can do in the world, recognize that the moment you're dealing with right now is temporary. The things that we are going through, they will pass. And the dreams that we have are still very, very real. They may adapt or change as everything does over time, but that doesn't limit them. That doesn't mean that you can't accomplish exactly what you have been hoping to and what you have been working toward. The third is a thought that has been helpful for me, and it's been helpful for a number of my clients this week. It is that there are no epic heroes without epic challenges. We don't have heroes without challenges. We talk often about, in fact, the hero's journey. You talk about it in literature, we talk about it in the challenge of being an entrepreneur, but it's good to remember that the bigger the challenge, the more amazing the heroes. And we've had, in many cases, a lack of opportunity for epic heroes to arise. Right now, we're seeing them every day, whether it's in the ranks of nurses or those in the service industries, whether it is in you finding a way to do what you do from home or to care for your family in difficult times. This is a component of your hero's journey. It is a step and a stage on that path, and it is something that you will look at as being part of what forges you in the fire. And the fourth piece of good news is that leadership is the cornerstone of progress, and every single one of you is a leader. You may think, "Oh man, I'm not a leader. That's not what I want to do." Guess what? People watch you. People see what you do. People see how you respond, whether it's your peers or your friends or those who work for you or with you or who you work for. You are a leader, and that should be encouraging, not discouraging. Leadership is the cornerstone of progress. Leadership is what moves us forward in the world. And as you think about the pillars of how we get better at leadership, first you think about personal growth. That's something that we all have maybe a little extra time for now, but is super important for us to focus attention on. You think about attitude. Leadership is a lot about attitude. After I begin growing personally, I need to make sure I have the right attitude that I enter the world with. And then communication. How do I communicate with those around me? How do I communicate with the world? What message, what resonance am I sending out? And then finally, after we have those things in place, it comes to be about how we impact the team of our peers, the team of those that we engage with. We all have some form of a team and we all act as a leader within it. Take those pillars, take that thought that leadership is the cornerstone of progress, and be encouraged by it. Now, as we look at this good news, hopefully it gets you in the right mind to say, I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to do things that make a difference. I'm ready to take practical steps. And that's a lot of why I'm here. When I train, when I share with my clients, we talk about principles that are true everywhere. And we talk about practicals that apply to them or to their situation. Right now, with so much of the world facing a very similar situation, the 12 tips that I'm about to share with you are tips that will connect with each of you. Some of them you're going to hear and you're going to say, I'm doing that. I got that. Check. No problem. Good. Take that, mark it down as a win, put a star beside it. That's fantastic. Some of them you're going to say, yeah, I could work on that one, but I'm doing okay. That's fine. Maybe put a little highlight and say, I'll get better at it. And then there are going to be some, maybe 3 or 4 of these 12 that you say, I needed that one. That's the one I needed to hear. I have to start doing that. If I do that, it will change my life. It'll change my mindset. It'll change my progress, and it'll give me an opportunity to win. It'll give me an opportunity to be the leader that I want to be in times of trouble. So let's talk through these 12 tips. Tip number 1, take ownership of your response. That means that when you are out and about, when you're engaging with anything, when you hear news, when you read the news, God forbid, when you check on different things and you get something to interact with, that you have an opportunity to choose how you respond. Charles Swindoll says 90% or 10% of life is what happens, 90% is how we respond to it. I believe that very passionately. So if that's the case, then what's going on in the world or your world right now is 10% of it. How you choose to respond to it changes everything, from whether you go swimming in cold water and build up a resistance to be able to make it through to the other side without shutting down. That's you choosing to respond to something difficult, or whether it's bad news that you see happening around you and how much you choose to let it affect you directly. Those things are under your control, not the things themselves, but the response to it. And what I like to say is, don't let the 10 control the 90. Allow the 90 to control the 10. There's another 90-10 example that I like that is a corollary to this, and it is that 90% of what is going on right now in your world is actually good. Sit down and make a list today. If you want to prove this, sit down and make a list of all of the things that were good, and make sure to list all of them. Make sure you don't shortcut yourself. So what is good? Is the weather good? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have food? Do you have somebody that you can reach out to? Do you have family? There are so many good things, big and small, that are going on, that even when something significant is not, the 90% of what is there is still good. And again, don't let the 10 control the 90. Choose how you respond. That's tip number 1. Take ownership of your response. Tip number 2, find your calm. Calm creates clarity. Calm is a choice, and calm is contagious. The first piece of goal work that I have done with all of my clients in the last 10 days has been to work with them to help them create calm, to help them find a way to breathe, whether that was to gain some perspective about what was going on in the world and understand that the world will go on no matter what, whether it was to help them take a breath, a literal breath, to say, you're hunching, you're struggling, so sit up. Take a deep breath, maybe a 3 or 4 count in and out. Then look all the way left, look all the way right. Take another deep breath, 3 or 4 in and out. And you do that, and you will start to see the trees in the forest instead of the one tree that you were hugging. If that doesn't work, get up and go take a 2-minute walk, whether it be around the building you're in, or if you can't do that, around in the building that you are. Motion trumps emotion. Do the things to find your calm and recognize that once you have calm, you gain clarity and you're going to make better choices. But also, finding your calm is a choice. And the coolest part for me is that once you are calm, calm is contagious. Calm is catching. When you are that, others around you will feel that. It's like a calm field that has waves going out from you. And as they become more calm, the world will around you will calm. Your environment will be better. You will feel better, and it will feed into itself. On the flip side of that, the whirlwind feeds into itself. So if you find yourself grabbing onto something, sinking a piece of bad news, sinking your teeth into it and spinning round and round about the same thing, that will feed upon itself as well. So make the choice to find your calm is tip number 2. Tip number 3, choose your energy. Couple of components to this. The first is to recognize that everyone is an energy giver or an energy drainer. Everybody is either positive or negative. There's not a middle, there's not a zero. This is either something that I do is either positive or it's negative. It's either draining from somebody or from the world and the situation, or it's giving to it and it's energizing it. So we can also make that choice. And when we make that choice, we have to recognize nobody is happy all the time. Nobody is going to have a good day every day. Nobody is going to be in a good mood all the time. It's more of looking and asking yourself, what is my default? Do I default to a negative response? Do I default to a positive response? If you're defaulting to a negative, flip the switch and get yourself to where you default to a positive. Once it becomes even 51% of the time that you are out there with the positive, it will change the world around you. Then work on the percentages. Get it to where your instinctive response is to be an energy giver instead of an energy drainer, and you change the world. One simple way to do that, one practical tip for you to do this, is to choose to lead with good. An example of this recently has been all of the different companies who have been making their announcements about the COVID-19 closures. There are two groups of companies. The bulk of them have put it out and said, we're closing our doors, or due to everything, here's what we're doing. The smaller fraction of companies have said, hey, we're excited that we're going to be able to be here for you online, even though we're not able to have you into our closed facility. Or they have said, we're looking forward to being back with you soon, even though we have to close our doors for right now. Whatever it is, it's just that little twist of inverting it, of saying, I will say the good thing first. Sometimes that will mean the bad thing or the negative thing will go away. Other times it'll be there and you're going to say it. I'm not saying don't acknowledge reality. I'm saying lead with the positive, have the instinct to lead with the positive. And tip number 3, therefore, is to choose your energy. Tip number 4, make a choice. Make a choice to go forward. Make a choice to go on. Make a choice to gain perspective. Here's where I'm going to get a little bit heavy for just a second. No matter how bad things get in your life, in whatever is going on in your world right now when you hear this, and for many of you, you'll hear it while the pandemic is going on. No matter how bad this gets, literally, if millions and millions of people die, and I certainly hope that they do not, I hope no one does. I hope we find a cure, a vaccine, all of the things, and that we solve that. But no matter how desperate it gets, the world will go on. Look back to World War I, and you saw battles where 1 million people a day would die, and months later, the world went on. And in the end of that, some people were winning, and some people were finding ways to go forward in the positive, and many were not. Now, a lot of that was because of their perspective. It was because of that 90-10 rule we talked about, of how they chose to respond and what they chose to do about it. I'm not saying, for those of you who are listening and raising your eyebrow right now, I'm not saying that there are no situations where people don't have a choice. Of course, there are horrific situations. I'm saying that in general, I choose to make the decision that I'm not going to let my success or my future rely upon everything else that's going on. I'm going to take my hands and put my arm around it, and I'm going to stand up and do the work right now. I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity that's here. I'm going to make a choice. That is number 4, make a choice. Number 5 is related to this, and it is stop spinning. You may find yourself, as so many do, on day one of something that's announced, reading it and saying, I need to gather all the information. All right, you do. You got to know it. But if you find yourself on day three making the same jokes, talking about the same information, focused on the same piece of news, having read the same thing in 20 different ways, you're spinning. And spinning isn't helpful for anyone. Spinning eats up time, it eats up mental energy, it tends to breed negativity, and it puts you in a bad spot. It lets you get caught in the whirlwind. And as we said, the whirlwind is contagious. So if you're caught in the whirlwind, you're not moving forward, you're not moving in a singular direction that takes you to a good place. So my challenge is this: take a moment to reset. That's okay. We all need a breather. Heck, some of you may need to say, I just need to take a couple days and breathe and sleep and recover. Okay, but then move forward. So it's reset, but move forward. Don't reset and spin. Don't not reset. It's reset and then move forward. So how do we move forward? As we come out of these first 5 tips, the last one here was stop spinning. That was tip number 5. We move into some practical ways that you can move forward. Tip 6, create your routine. It's easy when things change in your world dramatically, whether it be because you're out of a relationship, or because you just moved, or because you went to a new country, or because you started a new career, or because of something dramatic like the COVID-19 pandemic, that you are thrown into this world of vagueness and your routines are completely disrupted. And what most people miss is that you need an anchor. You need tent poles to control the chaos. You need things that make your life make sense and help you cover a lot of ground in a much calmer way. This goes back, and this will supplement tip number 2 of Find Your Calm, will be create your routine. So when you create your routine, figure out what are your non-negotiables. What are the things that you know you need to do every day to be mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy? Yes, you should consider all 3 of those, not just one. Consider them and put yourself in the best place. My suggestion to start with is to use a gratitude, growth, and exercise routine, GGE as I like to call it, and that will cover you at least the basics. Then figure out the rest of your day. So in the morning, I will do a gratitude exercise. I take 2.5 minutes. I write down 3 non-repetitive things. That's important. They're non-repetitive. It's also important that I write them down so that they integrate into my mind in a different way. And I can type them, that's fine, but just thinking them is not enough. I write down 3 non-repetitive things that I'm grateful for, and the funny thing is, it'll take you 2.5 minutes to do that, but 2.5 weeks later, your brain chemistry has changed and you will be far more grateful. What did you just affect? Your emotional health. Next is your growth exercise. At the end of the day, I take 2.5 minutes and I ask myself, how did I get better today? How did I move forward today? How did I grow today? And I write that down. I keep a book next to myself so that it's next to where I write it down, so that if I didn't grab something, that I can read for a few minutes and then write down how I grew. This makes sure that you go forward every day, and this is good for your mental health. This is good because you will continue to think and imagine and be inspired, and you know that you, instead of getting worse today, I got better. Every day you either get better or worse. If you think you're sitting still, you are sliding backwards. So take the step forward. And the third is exercise. This is for your physical health. We just said take 2.5 minutes for each of the others. Take at least 10 minutes for this. Motion trumps emotion, but motion is also something that is good for you to build strength, to build health, to keep your resting heart rate down, to keep you conscious and focused. It is good in many, many ways. And when we get trapped, especially if we are not just trapped in a bad habit, but rather a tougher environment, we can lose sight of the importance of physical exercise. I'm doing martial arts practice every day right now, and I also like to go for walks. Whatever it is, I'm committed actually to over 30 minutes per day of exercise. If you commit to at least 10, now you've got 15 minutes that you've given to yourself for gratitude, growth, and exercise every day, and you will not regret it. This allows you to complete tip number 6, which is create your routine. Tip number 7 is redo your list. We should all have a list. We should have a prioritized list of what we are doing. And what we're doing should be based upon how fast we get to our how fast we get to our North Star. Our North Star is that point that we are aiming at. And this is good for me to say and highlight to you that if you understand your North Star, you understand where you are aiming at, and you have your core values, you know what you stand for and what you're all about, that neither of those have changed regardless of the struggle that you are in right now. The only thing that changes is your list, is the order of your list. So what we normally would say is establish our North Star. And if you would like more information about this, we give away this training for free as part of our Dreams Are Real group on Facebook. Click there, go to the announcements, and get your free video training where I share in more detail about that. And also feel free to message us with questions. But once you have your North Star, and you know your filter questions of, does whatever I encounter move me towards it or away from it? And once I find things that move me toward it, that I ask, is there something that moves me further, faster? And that's how I create my prioritized list. I list all the things that could move me toward my North Star, and I organize them in the way that make the greatest impact, or in the way that move me the furthest, the fastest. Here's the change. And this is the only thing that's really changed right now. What you were doing 3 weeks ago that moved you the furthest, the fastest, may not be the same right now. For me, a few weeks ago, I was focused upon our upcoming Mindset Matters 2020 event. That event will still happen. It'll happen later in August. But right now, it can't be my number one focus. My number one focus might be an online summit, or this podcast, or growing our group. My number one focus is, as always, serving the community. But how I do that tactically is changing. And I'm looking for the way that makes the greatest impact. And so stepping back and revising that list, redoing my list, was a very important thing as I did the reset. That is tip number 7, redo your list. Tip number 8, avoid the societal depression spiral. This is a crazy term. You may not have heard it. It is something that occurred to me a few weeks ago as I watched society respond to this big pandemic, and recognized that society responds to many things in a similar way. And if you hold up the path that society goes and all of the symptoms that are there, to me, and I am not a psychologist, I don't play one on the radio or the internet or anywhere else, but to me, having struggled with anxiety and depression and related issues for much of my life, I look and I see the societal response to this have very many matching characteristics. So for me, this looks like a societal depression spiral. And I would say that it's important we avoid that. The bad news is that they look the same. The good news is that the exact same interrupts that work for helping me to stop going down a depressive path work for getting out of this, for pulling away from what's going on in society in the negative energy fashion right now. What does that mean? That means that I know that motion trumps emotion, and I have to stay in motion. I have to go forward. I know that if I focus outward and upward instead of inward and downward, that I would win. And that's really the challenge with this tip: is ask yourself, what am I doing to look outward? What am I looking to do to look upward, rather than getting focused inward and downward? When I go inward and downward, I tend to fall in upon myself. I tend to think negative thoughts. I listen to that inner voice, that herald, as those of you who've talked to me about that before. And I realize that now more than ever, I need to say the words, shut up, Harold, and step forward and look upward and outward and act in that way. So avoid that societal spiral, and you will be in a healthier shape. Here's another practical tip to do that. Limit your social media to 4 times a day. I don't mean don't watch a movie. I don't mean don't stream something. I mean limit you looking at your social media to 4 times a day so that you can contain it and not get caught in the maelstrom. Tip number 8 was to avoid the societal depression spiral. Tip number 9, seek incredible people every day. This is one of my favorite tips because I love people. I'm an extrovert. I love engaging. I love meeting new people. And this tip is 2 parts. first part is seek new incredible people every day. Get introduced to people, build relationships. This is an unparalleled opportunity for you to connect with people who often wouldn't have the time, and to reach out to them and build a relationship. Reach out to people maybe you haven't in a long time, but look for those who lift you up. Look for those where you will learn and grow and gain. Also look for those that you can lift up. Look for the opportunity to help others. Also, take this time to choose your five. I passionately believe that we become the average of the five people we spend the most time around. And because of that, I revise that every quarter. Every quarter, I look and say, who are my five now? Who are my five now? I would encourage you to look at your five and make sure that you're spending time with them. That time, as I say frequently, does not have to be in person. In my case, one of my first set of five, when the very first time I did this, was Tim Ferriss was a podcast host. And I listened to more than 1,000 hours of what he did. He was one of the five because I knew that would help me to learn and grow, and it would lift me up. I encourage you to evaluate your five and make sure you're spending the right amount of time with them. I also will remind you that you don't have to eliminate people from your life to pick your five. You choose your five and spend more time with them, and everyone else will self-adjust. It will work out very naturally. So seek incredible people every day, whether it be choosing your five or finding new people to meet. That is tip number 9. Tip number 10. Make yourself a priority. Yes, self-care matters. And in the midst of craziness, it is easy to lose track of yourself, to focus upon others, to take care of the kids, to take care of the pets, to be stressed, to walk around and think about the future, to do all of that. It's also important that we take care of ourselves, that you do the small things that matter, that you give yourself 15 minutes a day that are just yours, that are no one else's. They're not the dogs, they're not the families, they are for you. And maybe it's 15 minutes that you read. Maybe it's 15 minutes that you just stay in the shower and smile. Maybe it's 15 minutes that you go for a walk. Maybe it's you taking a minute to give yourself a little treat, maybe a food that you like, or to do an activity that you like. Whatever it is, remember that you matter. People matter most, and you are incredibly important. You have value. What you do in the world has incredible value, and you're only going to do that at your best if you are at your best. So make yourself a priority. That is tip number 10. Tip number 11. Speak kindness into yourself and others. I usually say this into others and yourself, but coming out of the tip number 10 of the making yourself a priority, let's start with you. Speak kindness to yourself. Speak affirmations to yourself. Remember that you are amazing. Remember the good that you have done. We have a tendency to have a bias to remember feedback or things that have happened in an inverse proportion to what really occurred. We remember the one bad thing that happened instead of the 99 good. That's that voice. That's that Harold. Tell Harold to shut up. Speak kindness into yourself. And remember that you are valued. You are worth it. You matter. Also do that for others. Recognize that they face their own struggles, and specific positive feedback and input changes lives. I was speaking with someone who is a dear friend earlier today, and she is incredible at finding a very specific thing that will make an impact in someone's life and saying it in a positive way. And I treasure that about her, not just for her impact in my life, but for her impact in those that she engages with every day. Be that person. Speak kindness into yourself and others. That is tip number 11. And tip number 12, our last tip for today, is make the most of this opportunity. I want this to be maybe the most encouraging tip of all. That is that you have right now before you an opportunity, not just a challenge. We have those, we see that, and we all acknowledge that these are challenging times, but you also have an opportunity. You have more time. You have more focus available, because there's a lot of stuff that we just can't do. Even those of us who have been working from home for a long time or running businesses from home for a long time, there are still a certain number of things that are not available to be focused upon right now. You have an incredible opportunity. You have an opportunity to engage with people unlike what we may have had in a long time because of the added focus that's available for them. You have an opportunity to do incredible things, to create. And just as our podcast said in the last episode, don't stop creating. I love the guys at Grove Studios and their sharing of that message. Don't stop creating. And I would say this: create your future. Don't stop creating your future. Dreams are real and dreams matter. And you have every opportunity to accomplish your dream if you utilize this opportunity, if you take advantage of it. Not don't push yourself in the wrong way, but push yourself in the right way, the healthy way, the powerful way, so that you can be the one who responds and makes a choice and becomes that epic hero while facing an epic challenge. Thank you guys so much for all that you do, for listening, for engaging, for supporting the podcast, for supporting our group. And I am grateful to know and be a part of the life of each one of you. And I'm grateful for the attention that you give us. Have a wonderful time. Be safe, be healthy, be good. And as always, let me know how I can help. I love you guys.